Welcome to the Dropship Podcast, where you'll learn how to build and grow a high-ticket dropshipping business and hear stories from successful e-commerce entrepreneurs. Let's kick this thing off. Hey, welcome to the Dropship Podcast. Back again with our favorite game show, Good Niche, Bad Niche. And today we're going to talk about something that hits a little close to home. I'll dive into that a little bit in the show, but air purifiers. From a high level, John, good niche, bad niche, air purifiers, what do you think?
Look, on the face of it, certainly, without diving into the market itself, yeah, I mean, if you think of the products themselves, right, they certainly look pretty good, right? I mean, think of an air purifier. It's not a big product. You know, it's fairly compact. It's a fairly straightforward product, right? Plug it into the wall, turn it on. The price is right on a lot of them. You know, there are some cheaper ones. They're not super high ticket. I mean, you can get into like sort of commercial grade ones, I think, and the prices go a bit higher, quite a bit higher. But you know, they're at an okay price, I think, given their size and, you know, how they ship and all of that sort of thing. You know, there's not too many extra sort of costs associated with that. And so, you know, as well, like, I mean, it's not really what you would traditionally think of when you think of like an enthusiast product, but it kind of is, right? I mean, people buy air purifiers in a lot of cases to like help with their health, you know, or something like that. And so
I've got so many stories, dude. I've got so many stories, dude.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll if you can share some of those, that'd be awesome. But I think you know, it's people have an interest in mind when they buy these things, right? And there's probably there's different ones, right? Like some people buy them because they've got asthma or some sort of allergies or something like that, or maybe they live somewhere where the air quality is not fantastic, or maybe they smoke a crap load of cigars and they want to filter that smoke out, or whatever it might be. So it's not like a hobby interest type thing, but it's still there's a definite and clear, you know, sort of outcome that people are seeking when they look at purchasing one of those things. And so from a marketing perspective, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to have, right? Because you can sort of really screw into that sort of stuff to persuade people to buy the product. So, you know, I think when you look at it from the outside, and I think there's also, you know, I could see, you know, a store where you sell those and other things as well. I never am a fan of just building a store that just focuses on one type of product. So I wouldn't say that people go out and build an air purifier store. I don't think that's necessarily the right approach, because most people, yeah, they might buy one air purifier. Like, they're not going to come back 6 months later and buy another air purifier from you, or a year later. I mean, these things at least will last multiple years before you have to buy a new one, ideally. And so air purifiers as part of, you know, maybe a broader health focused site, or a broader site that focuses on the environment in some way, or filtration, or I don't know. You know, there's probably a few different ways you could swing that. You know, I could see there being a lot of upsides there. But it's never that simple, is it, Ben?
I think if you go to Google and just type in any niche, really works this way, but air purifier for, and then hit the space bar. And if you can scrape that list, there's hundreds there, right? And so you can imagine somebody who's selling fitness equipment may offer selling them for their gym, right? So it could fit on that kind of store, or someone who has a health focused business selling saunas and cold plunges, that probably going to be an air purifier in there. Yoga businesses, daycares, there's all sorts of different like places you could add this into your business. But yeah, so I'm doing exactly what you said not to do. I sell air purifiers, ladies and gentlemen. It's the hardest niche I've ever been in, ever. Hardest. Like, there's so much competition. I don't know whether to start with the good stuff or the bad stuff, John. Where do you want me to start? Just, you know, I've got personal experience here.
Well, I think what it would be great to do, like, for people who are listening along to this, and most people who listen to this probably aren't planning on selling air purifiers. So, like, you know, whether it's as always with these episodes, the real secret in when we're talking about this stuff is like how we're thinking about it, and what we're like, not the product itself, but like, what are we talking about around that? Because that is the stuff that you can apply to any like niche or idea that you've got, and say, well, Ben said these things were a downside when it comes to air purifiers. Does that apply to me and what I'm thinking of doing, or anything I'm thinking of doing? So it would I guess it would be great, like, to sort of maybe the downsides, because I've just said that from looking at the product, like if you come at it from the product perspective, from the outside knowing nothing, like it probably looks pretty good for dropshipping. I could see a lot of people would go, yeah, that ticks most of the boxes, but you've just said competition is an issue. And I think that's one of the really overlooked parts of selecting a good market to be in or a good niche to be in. I think a lot of people out there who talk about high ticket dropshipping, not us, completely miss that point altogether. But in this case, it sounds like it's a pretty big deal.
It's actually a lot more identifiable than you would think as well. So one of the like telltale signs, and it is definitely the case in air purifiers, is if you're looking at a product group. So air purifiers fall into this, e-bikes fall into this. There's plenty more. If you go to Google and search those things, and every site that you get back is the San Francisco Chronicle, Forbes, New York Times, all of these, it's called Parasite SEO. People have paid for these placements so that they can dominate the top of the search results. If you see that, you likely are in for a world of hurt trying to get into that industry. Just you almost have zero hope SEO wise, except for the super long tail stuff, because people have just bought and paid for these articles. And so that's a really good telltale sign, I think. And that is the case in this industry. If you go search air purifiers, you're going to see a lot of bought and paid for articles on a lot of sites that have no business being there, really. And if you go look at the article, you'll be like, well, they sure talk about one brand a lot, and they link directly to them without an affiliate link, and everywhere else has an affiliate link. That it kind of makes sense on who paid for this article. And so this falls into that industry. Some of the other things that stand out to me are like, we often talk about no man's land, and this the personal home air purifiers, a lot of those fall into no man's land, right? They're in that $200 to $500 to $800 range. Some of them that you can definitely get on board if you sell these things. You'll get the margins back, and you'll be like, well, this will work. No man's land works when you have 40% margins. But with that comes, again, that steep competition just whittles away those margins. Everybody's offering a discount on the same products. If you're not offering a discount, you have zero chance in there. And so, you talked about like passion versus need. I like need. I think need can work. It's a different type of marketing than when you're marketing for passion, right? Like I sold golf products. Those guys will pay, and gals will pay anything for one more stroke on their game. Whereas an air purifier, it's like some people it's a need for sure. Like they absolutely have to have it. Other people, it's kind of a nicety. They'd like to have it, or the Canadian wildfires have deemed it necessary to have it, or they have perhaps some mold in their home and that makes it necessary, things like that. And I was laughing, it's not a passion thing, but I was laughing when you said it's not a passion thing, because, man, this leads me into my next point of the people. Some of the people who call in about air purifiers, John, they're very passionate about the chemtrails that are flying over their head, and perhaps other things that the government is putting in the air that they need to protect themselves from. I'm trying to think. I wish my employee was here. I would just call him in to come say some of the stuff, because he just listens. He's a saint. Like, he'll listen for 30 minutes. Some lady saying, well, the guy next door is smoking weed and I don't want to get high, so I need to get one of these air purifiers. And you're just like, I don't think that's how it works, man. Like your apartment neighbor is not, hotboxing you. Just random stories, buddy. I wish I had more. I wish he was here, because I would literally just pull him in here to talk. Some of the craziest people I've ever met. God bless their soul. They think they're doing a good thing, and who are we to tell them that that's just condensation coming out of that jet and not mercury molecules or whatever they believe it to be. And so some people are passionate. That was a long way of saying some people are passionate about air purification.
No, and on an earlier call with some of our members, we were talking about leaning into your market and leaning into your customer there, Ben. Maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe on that site, you need to communicate more with those people at their level.
So I think I will be sharing this soon. And I'll go into it a little bit. So I have attended some masterminds that I'm surrounded by people I'm not even sure I feel like I belong with. Like, these are the tippy top people. Thank you, Elliot Rowe, for believing in me and believing I belong in those rooms. And what I noticed in those rooms was people would spend any amount of money to get slightly better, to improve themselves. And so that my goal was to build that site. I decided to launch this in the middle of COVID, probably one of the worst times ever to launch a business. Or not worst times, but hard. It was hard. Everyone was out of stock. Brands were saying no to you because they couldn't keep up with their own customers. And so we ran into issues trying to sell cold plunges, saunas, red light therapy, things like that. And I had personal connections to brands, personal connections, and they were just like, we can't do it. We literally don't have any product. Like, how can I possibly say yes to you? I have no product. And so, the sauna is a good one. Clearlight, they'll allow you to sell them. They are the best brand, but you can't sell anything else. You can only sell Clearlight, which is not exactly what you want to do when you're selling, being a retailer. They are the best brand, hands down. They have the lowest EMF. They're not lying about their EMF. So we considered doing that. The cold plunge ran out of stock. They were like, well, you clearly have what we want. We don't have anything to sell. So like, we're going to sell to our own customers right now. And so that didn't work out. Some of the other cold plunges are just, they're not great. Red light therapy, again, I had personal connections to some of those brands, and they were just like, no, we don't have retailers, even with like, I don't want to go too deep into it, but I had some great references, people, standing up for me and making introductions for me, and it just didn't work out. So my employee, he's my best friend, he came to me, basically said, I just want to learn what you do. So he built the whole site. In that was some air purifiers. And ads are a nightmare there, by the way, like $7 clicks on a lot of stuff, which doesn't leave a lot of room when you're trying to convert. But what we found was relationships beat algorithms, as my friend George says. And so my employee made a great relationship with a couple of the brands. He would talk to the rep there all the time. They would talk football and all sorts of stuff that they were into. And wouldn't you know it, they don't do discounts. And anytime someone needed a discount, they just kept sending them our way, and sales kept coming in. And so they were pushing sales. Well, we couldn't get ads to work. We got SEO to start firing for us, which is fun. But those relationships won there. And so we were going to just kind of pivot out. He came on board the pet company, and we've been exploding in my pet supplement company. And so we were just going to kind of shut it down. And we said, how about we just pivot hard to only air purifiers, see if we can crack that nut. And in the meantime, I've been looking for someone we can recommend who can do agency work for our students for SEO. And thought I found someone saying all the right things, white hat, saying all the right things. And I hired them for this business. And the moment I hired them, they were like, hey, here's a bunch of black hat stuff we're going to start doing to your site. So right now it's just kind of this testing ground. So I don't really want to be open with the business until kind of see how black we're going to get. But I want to learn too. I'm normally pretty white hat, but I want to learn. So anyway, that's my long way of saying, I sell air purifiers. It's been fun. It's been very challenging, even for, someone as experienced as myself. But I think it could work. I think it fits a lot of criteria, John. It's just like when you think about the people, when you think about the ad cost, like Standing Desk is a good example. Standing Desk fit a lot of category. Maybe we should do a show on Standing Desk where we'll say the exact same things here. Boy, does that look really good until you go to Google and you realize you're paying $7 a click. And you're like, how could I possibly get this off of the ground enough that I can build brand equity, that I can build SEO, that I can build other ways, word of mouth for us to garner more sales? Because in the beginning, it's Google. And if you can't compete in Google, then that's probably why John and I tell you to stay away initially.
Yeah, I think, a couple of other thoughts just while you've been talking there. One, going back to what you were saying about needs markets, like they can work for sure. We don't recommend people generally do them though. And I think this is a good example of why needs markets are big markets, because they're needs, right? By definition, they're big. They've got big brands in them, all of that sort of thing. But because they're big, this is what you see. It's the competition. That's generally, and yes, a lot of the big brands don't drop ship in needs markets. That's also true. But it's the competition, because everybody wants to be there, right? And so that tends to be why they don't work out amazingly well. The first page of Google, like you say, it's really, really hard to get there when you're competing with like Forbes and, all of these sort of sites that don't actually sell anything. They're just massive content sites. So that's why we tend to pull away from it. But the other thing I would think possibly as might be interesting, and I did look at this sometime in the past, not super recently, but it did appear to me with this market that there's also a commercial side to it, like a B2B side to it as well. Like there are specific sort of I don't even know if they're necessarily called air purifiers, but like air filtration systems that businesses use. Like they're just kind of like the same units, but they're just scaled up a bit, right? They're bigger, they're more expensive, like $10,000, that sort of thing. I think they're, what I'm seeing a lot lately from our students, and even myself, is that business to business side can often be a bit more open. when the B2C side of a market is a bit more closed, because, not a lot of people think about the B2B side of things, honestly. And like, I've started selling some products that I thought would be more B2C focused, and I take more orders from businesses, like unintentionally sort of thing. And certainly I think I saw this a little bit with air purification as a broader idea of air filtration in the past. So there might be something there as well, I think.
Yeah, I almost skipped over what I was going to tell you. So we often talk about talking to your customer. And so, I don't want to talk to, the crazy people who are calling in. We do talk to our customer, right? So one of these is meant for your home, for your bedroom, right? And so rather than just say, this does blank, this is great for blank, which is really what you're going to get from the manufacturers, ours starts with, get a healthy night's sleep free from pollutants with this item. Do you wake up with a dry throat or stuffy nose? Or does your loved one snoring wake you up each night, resulting in restless sleep? This machine can help reduce these symptoms and give you the healthy night's sleep you want and need. And like, that's how our descriptions are. And so I do want to share this at some point, John, because it's so well done. Like, the SEO is extremely well done. We're writing to the customer, and this is exactly what we teach around here. And so, while I wouldn't recommend this industry, honestly, like, even if you have one of those other businesses where you can add these on, I'm not even sure if I would waste my time. Just because, again, who's buying an $800 or a $1,200 air purifier, right? They're probably looking at a $200 Dyson and thinking that's good enough. And so I'm not even sure this is a good add-on. But if you can take something away from this, it's like how you can speak to your customer and how you can, compete with the big guys. So I hope to be able to share this and say, look at us at number one for one of these hard terms, but it's going to be a long slog for this. And, I'm up for the fight, and maybe these black hat methods will work better. But yeah, I'm going to have to give this a thumbs down, honestly. And I'm in it. I'm literally selling this stuff.
Thanks for listening to the Dropship Podcast. You can find all the show notes for this episode at dropshippodcast.com. And if you're ready to take the next step in your dropshipping journey, we invite you to join us inside Dropship Breakthru, where John and I will walk you through step by step in starting your own high-ticket dropshipping e-commerce business. But that's not all. Dropship Breakthru will also teach you everything you'll need to know to grow your business and take it to the next level. So head over to dropshipbreakthru.com and sign up for our free training that will help you take the first steps towards building and growing your own profitable high-ticket dropshipping business.